I thought I was part of the family, but when B and her relatives started using me for money, I realized I was just their ATM. I vanished without a trace, and they couldn't handle it. I'm a 29-year-old guy. I've always considered myself pretty level-headed. Work a decent job, keep to myself, and try not to cause trouble. But the past few months made me question everything about myself. How could I be so blind, so damn stupid? 3 years ago, I started dating B. At first, it was great. She was sweet, fun, and always down for anything. And her family? Well, they were different from mine. Real tight-knit. They had these Sunday dinners, birthday parties, holiday gatherings, the whole deal. It was nice at first. BA's mom, Mrs. H, was especially welcoming. She treated me like I was already part of the family. "You're such a good influence on B," she'd say. "You keep her grounded." It felt good. Made me think I was doing something right. But things started getting weird. It started small. Little hints that I didn't catch on to at first. BA's brother, R, was always around. He'd ask for small favors, help with his car, cover his phone bill. Little things. At first, it didn't bother me. I figured, hey, everyone needs help sometimes. But it wasn't just once or twice. It was constant. And every time I helped, they acted like it was expected. Like, of course I'd do it because I was part of the family. I should have seen the signs earlier. But when you're in deep, it's hard to notice. I liked feeling needed. I liked being the guy they could count on. But the more I gave, the more they took. Then B started pushing to move in together. She was really subtle about it, but I could tell she was getting serious. I wasn't against the idea, but I wasn't in any rush either. We were casually looking at places when her mom dropped this little bombshell. We were at her place for dinner, and Mrs. H brought up the idea of us buying her house. At first, I thought it was just talk. You know, one of those someday kind of conversations. But Mrs. H was serious. She wanted to sell her house to me. She said, you know, keeping it in the family makes the most sense. It's a good investment. You and B can start building your life here. It felt weird. The house was nice, but I didn't feel ready to take on that kind of responsibility. Besides, it wasn't just about buying a house. It was about buying their house. And there was this unspoken understanding that if I bought it, they'd still be hanging around, maybe even living there. I laughed it off that night, but the pressure didn't stop. Every time I saw B, she brought it up again. "It makes sense," she'd say. "You're already helping out so much. This way, we could really settle down." And then came the guilt trips. Her mom started pulling me aside, talking about how much stress she was under, how I was struggling, and how she couldn't manage things on her own anymore. "We're family," she'd say. "Family helps each other." I started feeling suffocated. I was getting hit from every angle. B, her mom, even R with his constant emergencies. But I tried to push through. I told myself, this is what it's like when you're in a serious relationship. You make sacrifices. But then I overheard something that made my blood run cold. It was late one night, and I'd forgotten my jacket at BA's mom's place after one of those never-ending family dinners. I let myself in, thinking they were all asleep, but I could hear voices coming from the kitchen. It was B, Mrs. H, and R. I couldn't make out everything they were saying at first, but I heard my name. That was enough to make me stop and listen. "You just have to keep him on the hook a little longer, or was saying. He's gonna crack. Once the houses in his name were set, B laughed. Actually laughed and said, he's so stupid. He doesn't even realize what's happening. He just hands over the money without a second thought. My chest tightened. I leaned in closer, heart pounding, trying to process what I was hearing. Her mom chimed in. Once the paperwork's done, he won't be able to back out. He'll be stuck with the mortgage, and we can still live here. We'll figure out something for R, too. Maybe he can move in with you too once it's settled. I stood there, frozen. My girlfriend, the woman I thought I was going to spend my life with, had been playing me this whole time. And her family? They were in on it, too. They'd been using me, milking me for every dollar, every favor, and I hadn't even seen it. I quietly grabbed my jacket and left without them noticing. I couldn't confront them. Not yet. I needed to think. I drove around for hours, my mind spinning. How long had this been going on? Were they ever genuine, or was this the plan from the start? For a few days, I avoided them. I stayed with a buddy, trying to figure out my next move. Part of me wanted to confront B, to throw everything back in her face. But another part of me, maybe the smarter part, knew it wouldn't matter. They didn't care about me. They cared about what I could give them. So I made a plan. I went back to my place, grabbed my stuff, and cut them all off. Blocked their numbers, ghosted them. No explanation. No goodbye. I just vanished from their lives like I had never existed. The silence didn't last long. First, it was B blowing up my phone. Dozens of missed calls and messages. Then her mom. Then R. They were pissed. I listened to the first voicemail out of curiosity. It was B, her voice shrill with anger. You can't just disappear. What the hell is wrong with you? We had a plan. You're supposed to be part of this family. Part of the family? That was a joke. I wasn't part of the family. I was their personal ATM. I deleted the message and blocked her number. But they didn't stop. A couple of days later, B showed up at my apartment. She was banging on my door, yelling loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Open up. You owe us an explanation. You can't just ghost me like this. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to face her. I stood behind the door, listening to her rant. We were supposed to buy the house. What the hell are you doing? We had everything planned out. You're screwing us over. Screwing them over? The audacity of it made my blood boil. She didn't care about me. She cared about the house, the money, the fact that their little scheme had fallen apart. Eventually, she left, but the calls and messages kept coming. Mrs. H sent me this long, guilt-tripping text about how I was betraying them, how I was supposed to help them out because we were family, or even tried to call me a few times, but I never picked up. I was done with all of them. Then a couple of weeks later, I got a letter from a lawyer. They were threatening to sue me. Apparently, they claimed I had promised to buy the house and support them financially. It was all bullshit, of course. There was no contract, no agreement, just their entitled manipulative bullshit. I got myself a lawyer just in case, but it didn't go anywhere. They didn't have a leg to stand on. But still, the fact that they went that far, that they were willing to drag me into a legal fight just to squeeze more out of me, was unbelievable. In the end, I won. I cut them off completely, and they couldn't do anything about it. But it left me messed up for a while. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. I trusted B. I thought we had something real, but the whole time I was just a paycheck to her and her family. Looking back, I can see all the red flags I ignored. The constant favors, the guilt trips, the way they made me feel like I owed them something. I should have known. But when you care about someone, you want to believe the best in them. You don't want to see the truth, even when it's right in front of you. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that people will take advantage of you if you let them. You've got to set boundaries, or you'll get used. It's that simple.